Connection Japanisches Film Festival Frankfurt am Main.
Welcome to the 21st edition of Nippon Connection Japanisches Film Festival Frankfurt am Main. And I'm very happy to have the possibility to talk to Funahashi Atsushi, the director of Company Retreat, who's here for the second time after his great film Raise Your Arms and Twist, and who was a guest at the 2017 Nippon Connection Festival. Welcome. Glad that you made it. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you again.
See you again. Hello.
Sadly, only virtual. 4 years ago, we sat outside and had a drink, but we will do that next year, I think. I hope.
I hope so too. This year, I can't travel to Frankfurt. I'm sorry.
Yes, well, we can't come to Japan either, so I hope things get better in the future. I'd like to talk to you about, of course, your film Company Retreat, which you show at this edition of the festival, but also a bit about your career as a filmmaker, which is kind of unusual. And we will talk about like 40 minutes, and then the audience will have the possibility to ask questions as well via the chat function, and we tell you when you can start to ask questions. Funahashi-san, could you tell us first something about your career as a filmmaker? Why did you want to become a filmmaker, and how did you start, and where did you study?
I studied at the Tokyo University majoring the film studies. It's first like I was aspiring to be a film critic and watching a bunch of movies. Then I got a scholarship to go to study abroad, and then I went to the School of Visual Arts in New York, and that was back in 1997. And then I went to another university there. Then I changed from film critique background to filmmaking, and aspired to be a film director. So I started making films in New York, and made 2 films. One is Echoes. That was as a graduation thesis film at the School of Visual Arts. Then my professional debut, it's called The Big River. It was shot in Arizona. And New Mexico in the United States. It was a friendship road movie about 3 different people. One is the Japanese backpacker, and one is a white trash American girl, and another one is the Pakistani immigrant. And it was a kind of friendship going beyond the borders and the international differences. And then, so that's how I started making my filmmaking career as the fiction filmmaker. Then, meanwhile, when I was living in New York, then 9/11 happened. And as you may remember, everything, all the topics we were talking about, went down to this, Western society attacked by the Middle East or Al Qaeda or all of a sudden, like it's all those paradigm we were discussing is totally focused on that. And then, actually, like I remember almost half a year, we didn't see any movie. We were just talking about this threat by the, it was a very peculiar time of the peculiar time in the world history, I think. And I was in New York, so I started making documentaries inevitably. And so it's like that's a kind of how my career shaped. Like it's making fiction films as well as documentary. And then I moved back to Japan in 2007. Because I had a couple of opportunities I can make movies in Japan. So I just moved back to Japan after living in New York for 10 years. And then 2011, March 11 happened, 311. So it was the triple disaster with this earthquake and tsunami and nuclear disaster. And then I was almost forced to film this documentary on the, it's called The Nuclear Nation. It's a Fukushima disaster documentary. I felt a huge urge that I have to make a movie about this. So, you know, like I always try to make fiction films, but then besides that, all of a sudden, like something like a huge happens around me, like 9/11 or March 11. So inevitably, I end up like making a documentaries. So I always going back and forth between the fiction filmmaking as well as documentary filmmaking.
You established yourself as a very political filmmaker with those two Fukushima documentaries, and it's very surprising that someone asked you to do Raise Your Arms and Twist documentary on about Japanese girl idol bands, which is like on one hand, a film about this spectacular performances and what you would expect from a production company who, who produces these kind of videos and this kind of concerts. And on the other hand, you show how these girls live, what they have to do to make a career in this business, and it's comparable to prostitution. And you have like this ambivalence. You see these spectacular shows, and on the other hand, you see how much these girls have to suffer. So how did anyone ask you to make this great film?
There was a film back in 2017. It's called Raise Your Arm and Twist. And it was shown at the Nippon Connection, and I'm very thankful for that. But
we are thankful. I loved that film. We were talking about it then in 2017.
Yeah, thank you. You know, like it's this the big producer. His name is Akimoto Yasushi. He's the mastermind of this AKB48 or NMB48, or like you heard of it. Like it's a huge girl idols industry in Japan, and as you may say, that it's a kind of exploitation and the prostitution business, almost like. It's not exactly the prostitution, but it's more like you're selling the girls' sex to then getting selling the CDs and the music to them, and as well as their images, wearing those cutie looks. And so I got the offer all of a sudden back in 2015, then when I finished Nuclear Nation 2. And then what they told me, the producer told me, was that it's they are fed up with those stereotype idol movies. They are making all those like showing the cute girls as sexy as possible, as pretty as possible, but they are fed up with those styles, and they wanted to make an offer to the last person they can think of. And this producer said, "Okay, how about this guy? Okay, this is a dead serious documentarist making a Nuclear Nation 1 and Nuclear Nation 2 and the Fukushima disaster movie. How about this guy? What kind of movie he would make with idols?" So that's how they found me. And when I got an offer, like I exactly asked the question you asked me, why me? So they told me that was that was their intention, the last person they can think of. And then the one thing, like only one thing I requested, it's I want to have the director's cut.
The final cut.
I want to have the final say to make a decision on editing. I don't want to be controlled. And they said yes. They let me do that way. So they were fine that I kind of digged into their dark part too, this exploitation part and their business part, as I say. So it was a very interesting experience for me to make this kind of documentary. And then besides that, okay, I now this with the company retreat, I now see more and more this masculine side of this Japanese society, and then the gender equality is not here. Okay, it's Japan is so behind the Me Too movement and this idol culture, as well as this sexual harassment, is pretty much the big good example of that.
Before we come, you mentioned it, Me Too. Before we talk about your film you show here, Company Retreat, the expression Me Too seems to me like something very un-Japanese, because saying me too, it doesn't seem to be part of the Japanese society to say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's as I think it's, I assume like it's most of people like watching this talk event like saw the film, but it reveals at the end of the movie, it says there are lots of cases reported to this labor department in the Japanese government, and in a single year, 83,000 cases reported as a sexual or power harassment. And then astonishingly, almost half of them, the victims keep silent and they don't take actions. And it's a part of the culture, Japanese culture. Like it's they don't know how to react. They don't know what to do about it. So they just shut up and they don't do anything. That's the dark part of this harassment issues. Even they know there is something wrong and they have a huge problem and they are victims, so they want to do something about it, but they don't know how, and they consider being victimized like that is a shame, so they don't really say that. So that's another aspect of this issue that so as you said, like it's they cannot say me too. They just they don't say it, but they feel it.
You touched the subject with Raise Your Arms and Twist. And when did you know that you wanted to make a film about this, like Company Retreat, which is well, in fact, a film about sexual harassment, but in the first place, a film about the aftermath of that?
Like it's I've been thinking about this gender equality issue since I came back from New York 2007, because I got married in New York, and then me and my wife came back from New York to Japan. And then when I tried to get a job, or when my wife would tried to get a job, there was a huge difference. That she bumped into the many walls in Japanese society. For example, the pay and wages, it's much less. In fact, she was earning much more money than me in New York, but now it flipped when we came back to Japan. So she was always complaining, why you are making more money now in Japan? It's just I was making much more money in New York. And then so it's the structural social issue is here, that this unbalanced between any environment, the working environment or school environment. There's a huge collapsion about this gender equality.
Shouldn't Company Retreat be a documentary? It's about something which actually happened.
That's a good question. Okay, it's it is based on the true event, true incident that there was a huge sexual harassment incident happened in a big hotel chain in Japan, and then there are a bunch of hotels in Tokyo area, metropolitan area. And then I found this incident, and I have spoken to a couple of people, and including a victim and the perpetrator and her co-workers, and they are okay to talk to. And as we get into the subject and then had a really deep interviews, they said that they don't want to disclose their names, or they don't want to show their faces on camera. So I had a much difficulty. Like it's first, it was a kind of a preparation interview. So we just start talking, and I was jotting down the notes. But they said they are okay, they are willing to cooperate with me, but eventually they don't want to be shown on the camera, or they don't want to show their names. So first I wanted to make a documentary, but then I bumped into the wall. Like I cannot do it. But I felt this dark feeling, and their resentment, and their lots of conflict and mistrust and animosity inside this, the organization and the workplace. And I thought this is a really strong subject I wanted to make. So I turned it into a fiction film using all those information and all the words they told me.
You decided to do everything by yourself, like you directed the film, you wrote the screenplay, you edited the film, you were a director of photography, but all the actors have a co-credit for screenplay. So you were improvising the scenes together with your actors?
Yes, this is the Company Retreat is a speculative film. That's what I say. Meaning that it is based on a true instant, but it imagines how all those victims and co-workers would do if they go to the trouble to their company retreat for the vacation. What they would talk there, they would let out their frustration or resentment, or what they would talk. And all those conversations I used all those information and words, but I heard from the real event and the real victims and perpetrators and co-workers. So I used those information, but I didn't write the script. I told the actors about this, and then we discussed, and we made the basic flow of the scene. But most importantly, I didn't want it to be the director who decided everything. I really wanted to let the actors and actresses find the path. So all I did is we discussed each character based on the reality, based on the real event. Okay, so this victim girl was like, this is what happened to her, and she's thinking about this way or that way. And then, so we discussed about those basic characters setups, and then basic flow of each scene, and we let them do the scene. So it's their own words. It's not the words I wrote. So that's why I kind of credited all the actors and actresses as the co-writers. And importantly, like the reason I did that is, this is a film about harassment and sexual harassment. And I really wanted to integrate women's point of views inside the films. So I didn't want to dictate okay, we want to show this and we want to show that. I wanted to create the environment. Actresses like the Saki or Kinoshita-san can argue back to me, oh, you are wrong, and you gotta say this way and that way, and then so that we can just include their inputs in the film.
You have someone, I forgot his name, in the film, filming the whole company retreat. Was it in the original incident also that someone was filming this? Is there some original footage you saw when you were talking to people who actually lived through this?
His name is Ozu.
Yes, yes. Sorry. Yeah.
Actually, it is actually the fictionalized setup. Like I just made it up. I thought it's maybe like a journalistic point of view, or would make the drama more interesting.
Part of the well, the controversy in this company retreat is that after everything what happened, they were not planning to discuss what happened. They were planning to have a good time. And it's really hard to imagine after the things which happened before the film starts that it's actually possible to have a good time. And that's part of the discussion. Like they say to Saki, you got really great performances out of your actors. By the way, they telling her that she ruins all of them having a good time. It's hard to imagine that they actually were planning to have a good time.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of. I mean, like it is very interesting way to to see that, like how the drama turned out to be like that. I really wanted to show this group dynamics in the workplace. That's how I saw. And that's how the Japanese society or Japanese organizations work. And when this kind of sexual harassment incident happened, they cannot fix themselves. They argue, they debate, and the debate go all over the place, and they can't get things straight. That's an issue. So it's a kind of a film about the moral panic. They are really confused. They go all over the place, and they can't get the things straight, and they cannot even protect the victim. And they end up like the blaming Saki, who's the victim. So it's really messed up. And lots of people who saw this movie actually at the festivals, they said, "Man, Japan is so messed up."
Well,
and I think that's how it is.
I don't think it's only Japan which is messed up, actually. So I think we can generalize a bit on this experience, or on the experience we make with your film. It's not only a Japanese subject, but I remember you saying in 2017 for Raise Your Arms and Twist in the Q&A afterwards that you said that Japanese people are very political people. They have an opinion, but they don't practice. They haven't practiced to debate. And this is like also in company retreat. I have the impression they try to debate. It's not very successful, maybe, but they at least try it.
Yeah, I know. Okay, it was I'm not sure that was a good try or not, but at least they try to debate, and they try to let out whatever they think. But they're not trained well enough. For example, like if you come to Japan, like you would notice that if you come from the Europe or the US, it's the way the linguistic structure of the Japanese language. They don't say the conclusion clearly first. They say blah 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 blah. They keep talking, and end up not saying conclusion. And you are like, okay, what do you want to say? And that was a kind of the wall I bumped into, like when I went to the New York, like the first place. New York is the most fast-paced city. So if you don't say the conclusion right away, they were like, boom, they are fed up with you, and they just move on, and they don't listen to you. So I was like, oh, all right. I have to shift my brain, and I have to really point out what I really wanted to say. So I was trained that way. But like what happened to me, like it's the linguistic structure of Japanese language don't really are not really used to this debate culture. That's what it is.
the decision, like your film has two parts, two retreats, and in the middle you show what actually happened, the sexual harassment incident in the hotel. And was it always planned like that? It's even in color and the rest is black and white. It's a very unusual scene where the boss of Saki gets close to her, and it's also very short, which is also unusual. You don't see everything what happens. When did you decide on that?
That is a very good question, and we initially wanted to film the company retreat without showing the original harassment scene, actually. So like we wanted to create the film with all those black and white scenes. And after filming everything, then we realized, okay, maybe we at least like we have to show what kind of places the Saki and all those hotel colleagues walk in. And because like it's really company retreat is so far away and by the beach, and we want to kind of see the glimpse, this a little bit of visuals of the hotels, and also maybe how this Kumanaka, this her boss who did the harassment on Saki, look like. And at least a little bit of vignette of him would help the film. So I add the scene, but instead like it's showing all those sexual harassment scene, like it's like the Kumanaka approaching to her and touching her and doing all that. I think it's maybe we minimized what to show in the scene, so like let the audience imagine what had happened behind the door.
The scene was much longer in first place, you told me, and is it difficult? I imagine it's quite difficult as a male director to direct women being victims of or actresses being victims of sexual harassment. What was your approach to that?
Yeah, there are two things. Like it's Japan is ranked 120th in the world gender equality ranking. It's by the UN. So it is lowest among the top 25 developed countries. So we are so behind, as I said, so behind in the Me Too movement. And so I wasn't really sure like how aware I was of this, the gender imbalance. So for me, as a male director, directing this sexual harassment scene and then telling the actress like do that, do this, do that, would be itself an harassment. That's what I thought, and I don't know how to approach to it. And this is this is a film about the sexual harassment, but the filming itself could be an harassment too. So I bumped into the wall, and I didn't know how to figure out. And when I made the film in Portugal last time, it is called Lovers on Borders. Like it was back in 2018. We shot in part of Japan in Tokyo, and we shot in Porto, Portugal. And we had an actress, her name is Ana Morella, and then we had this. We shot the sex scene in Portugal, and then that was the first sex scene actually that I directed in my life, and that happened in Portugal. So that was a very strange setup, but that's the script I wrote, and then I talked to the Ana Morella in Porto, like on the set, and it was a private set, and then only me and the DOP, cameraman, and the actress, her, and then her lover. Only 4 people there, and the microphone was hidden, so like it's a soundman. Even the soundman didn't come into the set. So we did this scene, but Anna, before the shooting, Anna came to me and said, "Atsushi, I need to talk to you." And I was like, "Uh-oh," and she wasn't really happy about me communicating to her what kind of scene is this? It was not really clear to her. And for me, as the male director, not explaining to her clear enough about what she would do and how naked she should be, or what kind of action she would do, is already, almost like a crime. She said it's like a not, it's not really good at all. Like, she was very upset, and then so we talked to her, and we actually discussed so much, and then I apologized to her. And actually, that was the first experience for me, that realizing, okay, how unconsciously ignorant I was, and I wasn't aware of that. So that was the huge, wake up call for me. And then this time in the company retreat, so you are shooting, I was shooting the sexual harassment scene, and I was so hesitant to tell the actress, the Saki Hirai, to do this and to do that. And it's, even though I'm the director, but this is I cannot really force the authority to her. So I just write down the email, and then write a letter to her and say, okay, you have every right to say, no, I don't want to do this. Then I'm not going to do this. I cannot tell you what to do. You have the one who to decide, because initially we were talking, we're going to shoot this movie without shooting the sexual harassment scene. That's what I was saying. But then we have, all of a sudden, plan changed. So I have to take accountability to do this, and I have to show everything clear to you, and you have every right to say no. So she read the letter with her manager, and it took a couple of days to think over, and she came back to me say, yes, I want to do this. So that's why we got the consensus to do this together. So that was the very carefully approached procedure we went through, and that was very difficult for me, actually. That was almost like the more difficult than making films.
How did you decide? Why did you decide to shoot in black and white and do the harassment scene in color?
I wanted to create the feeling, the claustrophobic feeling that you are trapped in this little room, and you have to just keep watching this discussion, endless discussion, and then it's like you are being in the middle of the tunnel and without any light. That's why I wanted to make a very minimalistic color palette. So from the beginning, I wanted to make a black and white film. Then, so this additional idea about the harassment scene, I thought about maybe since this is a totally different setups and the time, maybe let's go with the color film. That's how we did it.
Where did you shoot the outdoor scenes?
Where?
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Shonan area. It's just the outskirts of Tokyo. It's 80 to 100 kilometers west of Tokyo, near it's called Kamakura. It's the old city of Kamakura, and it's a good surfing spot. There are lots of good waves there, and then when you go out there, even during this pandemic, there are lots of surfers over there, and then it's one of the most the famous spot in Japan who. If you went out for the vacation, then let's go to Shonan or Kamakura.
Was the subject of surfing important for this film?
I let you think about it. That's the kind of thing. Maybe it's kind of almost not interesting for me to answer.
Okay, I understand that. It's Company Retreat has one of the most interesting coming out scenes in a movie, because two guys are coming out in your movie, and no one's really interested because everyone is busy with other stuff. So it's really, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, like it's this LGBT things, the gay and the lesbian, the coming out things that's getting more and more popularity. It's the people are getting more and more familiar with that, and I have nowadays we are really getting used to this, and on the personal level, actually, like it's we don't see that much prejudice or anything. Okay, it's on the political level. Actually, okay, we don't have the gay marriage, lesbian marriage. Okay, we haven't admitted that yet, but it's on the daily conversation level. Okay, that's how it is.
There's a very I love the penultimate scene, like the almost last scene, when Kobayashi, who's one of the, well, if you can say it, bad guys in this movie. There's no one really bad or really good in this movie, but he's definitely not the victim, and he kind of gets punished by losing his shoe or having problems with his shoe, and that seems to be the only consequence out of the whole company retreat, that he has problems with his shoe, and everything else seems to go on as usual, or maybe not. Why did you decide to show this at the end of the film?
Like it's they got stuck basically. Like they couldn't get out of their situation, and like he can't even like fix his shoe, and he can't even like tie his shoe right, and that's how it is. And as I said, like it shows, the film shows how messed up we are, how immature we are. Like it's even such a like a very straightforward harassment issue. We cannot get things straight, and we just argue back and forth to each other, and then we cannot even like support and protect the victim. Instead, we are accusing and then attacking the victim. And she said maybe like she doesn't want to stay there, and it's being fed up with this environment. She just chose to forget this and move on. And that's like there's a Japanese expression that it's called mizu ni nagasu. It's you just let go with the flow of water, meaning. And it's like that. It's a mizu ni nagasu, like you just let go with the water. So I don't like that expression, but that's a very culturally deeply rooted way of thinking in Japan. I think it's you don't want to think too hard about it because you cannot fix it. So that's how the shoe time scene represent.
You're going where it hurts with your movies. How was the reception of Company Retreat in Japan? It was only shown at the Tokyo Film Festival, I think, and since then, as everywhere, cinemas are closed, I suppose.
Yes, actually, like it's the film itself is going to be in theaters early next year, in 2022, okay, because of this Corona pandemic. So, but we have shown at the Tokyo Film Festival, and then it was well received. Like it's people said they thought it's they cannot watch this long movie. Like it's over 2 hours, and but it's once they are really caught in this deep discussion, they felt like they felt like they are in the middle of the discussion, and then they can't get out of it. It's they felt really the film grabbed their attention. So in the many contexts of sexual harassment, like nowadays in Japan, like people are talking more and more about this theme. And then it's newspapers start talking about this movie too. It's like the major newspapers, and so I think that when the film opens in the theaters, I think it's there's gonna be more attention. That's what I'm hoping.
Me too. Any have you influences like other directors which influenced your work? Especially with this one, I would think of Ozu itself, actually, with all these subtle things happening, but also Hang Sang-soo. Hang Sang-soo would be an example of a director who's does a bit similar stuff.
Yeah, like it's there are a bunch of movie directors I love, and since like I've been a cinephile for a long time, so like I enjoy lots of influence. You know, as you said, because I love Hong Sang-soo, I love Ozu, and I love Eric Romer too.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, mainly like I try to find some my own voice, my own expression, and for this movie, I really wanted to depict, as I said, the group dynamics as is. That's why like I chose not to write the script. I let the actors and actresses say their own opinion, their own thought in their own words. So it's like it's a kind of interesting approach that I set up the halfway of the film, but the other half of the content I use the brain of actors and actresses. So it become real, and it's like it's more like a quad core CPU, you know, computer. Like it's you have like it's many CPU in the film, and there's all CPU thinking about a different way, and we mixed up together. That could kind of create the world. And so, you know, to depict these dynamics is like more interesting to me than like me just one man CPU is thinking about the whole script. In fact, like it's my major, like when I was writing the thesis at the Tokyo University, when I was measuring the film critique, was on the ensemble films in the film history, like Edward Yang or the Jean Noir or Robert Altman. All those filmmakers tend to make films without main characters, without like one or two main characters. They made the ensemble character films, like they have 10 or 20 characters in the movie, and they you know, the directors like depicted equally. And I was always interested in those films, and then Company Retreat, and as well as this Raise Your Arms and Twist are like some, you know, this kind of ensemble approach I chose to.
Will your next film be a feature film or a documentary?
It's a feature film, like this Company Retreat. Like it's actually like I'm editing on this computer right now.
Not right now.
Not now, but it's just half an hour before this. While I was waiting for this Zoom, like actually on this computer, I was clicking and editing, and it's about this ex-cons, ex-prisoners getting out of the you know, their sentence, and then getting coming back to the society, and how they can live their second life. That's the thing.
Very good. Hopefully you show that one at one of the next editions of Nippon Connection then.
Yes, you got to invite me there, like a Frankfurt. Yes. I'm set up with like a stuck in Tokyo.
Okay, so let's see, dear audience. Now is the possibility of asking some questions. There are some here already. I'm having a look.
Oh, okay. There are a bunch of questions.
Yes, Sven asks some questions. Can you see the questions as well here?
Yes,
or?
Yes, I can. I'm looking at it.
Let's have the first question. I'm just fighting with the system. In one scene, Uhara is referred to as something that tangles idols and TV personalities, not real world people. Sometimes one can read a story on Tokyo Reporter about actresses forced to appear in sex movies. It seems murder or bribery are more welcome topics on news. How common are public complaints in that area or doxing? Difficult to answer to.
Yeah, it's kind of very difficult to answer this. Yeah, like it's actually like it's as I explained, you know, about this, how I approach to my actresses to get the consent of acting in a sexual harassment scene. It's you know, like it is always difficult to do this, and then in many cases, in Japan, in Japanese filmmaking world, those processes getting ignored, and then those sometimes there you hear the news that like it's maybe the actresses were forced to do this, or you know maybe had to show you know how to be like naked in the scene, and then which like she didn't agree to, or you know, so it is all those processes are really not really standardized, and yeah, like sometimes like it's the what happened on the set, like sometimes like reviewed on the internet and SNS, and then as this Seven said, like it's sometimes like people like docs all those what happened on the set, and you know it is always difficult to look at these issues, especially in this era of SNS.
Sven Wilhelm also asked if anything changed after the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Organization Committee Chairman Mori Yoshiro made his comments about women, or if there's any real significant change in culture since this, or maybe a little.
Change in the film, or change in the
no, in Japanese culture.
I think it's in the process of we are in the process of changing, shifting a little by little. I think it's of course this the Chairman Mori Yoshihiro's remark was so bad, and then influenced you know, all over the society, and then we are in the it kind of created a really good debate, and then so I don't think there's it gave the fundamental change in the society yet, but we are going towards that, and for example, like whenever like we kind of form an organization or some committee, more and more people discuss the gender balance. That like, okay, maybe like we are all male, like a 10 people in a 10 people committee. We are like a 9 male and 1 woman, and we are like, okay, it's not really good balance at all. I think we have to get, you know, ideally, like we have to get 5 men, 5 women, but sometimes it's difficult. So let's get at least 3 women or 4 women, as many as possible. So like we, you know, that kind of discussion never occurred maybe 5 years ago, but nowadays like we do that all the time.
That's what I wanted to ask, if the discussion in your film, the protagonists of your movie have in the retreat, would it be the same? Would have been the same 10 years ago, or you think something changed during that time?
I think its acceptance in the society has changed. As I said, it's so little by little, more and more people want to discuss, and more and more people are welcome to think about and discuss about the fix the harassment issue, and then trying to have a gender equality at the office or in the organization.
That's good. Andreas Bühlmann likes the Yoda in the background.
Him. Yes. You know what he has? He's got a this server, vroom, 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 vroom. But this is his stuff. This is his stuff. Yeah. So like, whenever like I got stuck in the script, like I'm just playing with this.
Or what would Yoda do?
No, he gave me the insight.
Great. Benjamin Goodman has a remark. He feels that the black and white sepia supported the focus on the persons and put the environment more in the background, which I would also say worked very well. And his question is if the retreat setup is recovered from the real case, or did you invent that to have a confrontation between the characters in the film?
Yeah, it is the fictionalized setup. Like it's
Okay.
I just made it up. Yes. So like it's, as I said, like it's all the discussions and the wars and the information they brought up. Like those are like it's from the real incident, and so like I kind of adapted all those ideas into these setups.
Sven Wilhelm has another question. If you, at the time you finished Raise Your Arms and Twist, there was a sexual harassment assault on one of the NGT 48 singers. And he asked if you know more about this, or I would ask if it's common in these idol groups to have cases of sexual harassment. Probably yes, but to be publicized, it's probably rare.
I'm sorry, I don't know much about this case actually, because I heard of it, but I didn't just get in. I didn't put my nose into this, so I don't. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know. There's nothing I can say about it.
Okay. Any more questions? Benjamin Gutmann. Did the core topic of the movie Hara provoke discussions between the actors or other set contributors behind the scenes? So was there? Well, you said that many scenes were improvised, so probably there was a big.
Yeah, lots of topics they discussed, and I couldn't include in the film. One of that was this doxing, and we call outing about this gay identity. We talked about that much more. We included a little bit in the film, as we saw, it's this outing, the coming out scene, and also this Taku, he's one of the gay guy, talk about this outing. He really hates being outed. Somebody's disclosing the sexual orientation without a consent. So that kind of issue was much digged actually while we were shooting. There are lots of scenes about that, but it's actually we kind of made it shorter and to just fit into the film.
But that's like one of the most interesting scenes. I mentioned that they both worry a lot of, or at least one of them worries a lot about the coming out without consent. And it's quite central in the beginning of the film, and then in the end everyone says, oh, that's nice for you, and it's not such a big deal. But maybe it isn't such a big deal because there are a lot more important issues at the moment during the retreat. So that's I found that very interesting.
It is showing that if the society is welcoming all those sexual orientation, actually it cannot be the big issue actually, but because there are lots of differences and the prejudices, that's why just outing and doxing become an issue. That's what I think. Okay, it's if the maybe 20 years later or 30 years later from now on, and then the gays and LGBT things it's really not an issue at all. Okay, it's almost like a difference between the right hand or left hand. Right-handed or left-handed. It's you're left-handed. Okay, that's fine. Or if you like that very normal thing, then there's no outing crime anymore. So I think it's maybe it's a kind of thing, because we are in the midst of shifting. That's why.
It's a long way to there.
Yes,
but,
it's a long way, and it is taking time, and we got to be patient about that.
Maybe you're helping a bit with your films. Oh, there's another question. How would you describe, Marcus Nornes asked, how would you describe the state of sexual harassment in the Japanese film industry today and historically?
I think it's everywhere, and it has happened before, and then I don't want to believe it is happening still now, but I mean, there are lots of things, as same as the any other workplaces in Japan. There are lots of cases there, and as I mentioned at the end of the movie, all those harassment cases, the victims don't keep silent, almost half of them, and then just they don't take action. So that's I think the deepest part of the issue. It's a part of the culture. They don't. It's a sense of shame. Prevent them from speaking out, and it's I don't know, honestly, I don't know what to do about it, but at least what I can do is make a film about it.
In the United States, especially, you're always in a difficult relationship, as you mentioned, as a director filming a sex scene, by example. There are more and more, like, I think they're called intimacy consultants, like people who are at the set and talking to the director and the actresses about intimate scenes, which I think is probably a good idea. Do you know about something like that in Japan?
Intimacy consultant?
Yeah, I think I don't know if that's the right expression, but
wow, I need that. I need intimacy consultant on my set. I definitely need that, actually. It's always make me nervous, whenever it's direct those sexual scenes. It's because I don't want to be in the position that forcing someone to do things.
I can imagine. I think we're at the end of this great talk. Funahashi, Atsushi, thank you for being part of the festival again, and hopefully in the future for a lot more movies, be it documentary or feature films. And good luck editing your new film, and thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. I'm really hoping that we can see each other for real.
Yes, we're all hoping for that. And thanks to the audience for listening. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, you're listening. Bye too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.